Hi and welcome to Tech Tip Friday. I'm Kurt Stahle, that plastics guy, and I'm bringing you a tech tip that you can take to the shop floor with you today. So today it's more than just a tech tip. I wanted to talk about a topic that is, well, and has gained a tremendous amount of momentum in our industry, and that being sustainability. So if you don't have a director of corporate sustainability, and let's face it, if you're an SME, most of us don't have a position like that, what can you do to ensure your organization has, well, elements of sustainability as best as it can? Because if we all do our part, even a little bit, it adds up. So what can we do? Well, first thing, your bread and butter, your equipment, keep it running at its optimal level. When equipment starts to get out of, well, maybe in terms of speaking of cars, we would say it would get out of tune. Well, if your equipment starts to deviate too much from manufacturer's tolerances, or you haven't done your hydraulic fluid changes, or whatever your equipment is running or isn't running, if you haven't kept up with maintenance, your equipment will not be running as efficiently as possible, and you're likely going to see higher rates of energy consumption or lower rates of productivity. Neither is good. I mean, these are the things that we can do to actually be sustainable, keep our production equipment running as efficiently as it could. And that leads to the next point. Part of sustainability is preserving the resources that we have, not wasting them. So if you are efficient, production floor equipment, and what about your facility? How about the efficiency of your production facility? Do you have, a great working HVAC system? Is that HVAC system as efficient as it could? When was the last time you had it serviced? Does your facility use electric heat in the office? Maybe you want to consider going to a more efficient central HVAC or a natural gas system if you're just dealing with heat. Whatever the case. What about the windows in your facility? Yes, windows are expensive, but if you upgrade to a current standard of windows, you're going to save energy. So in preserving energy or using less, that's probably a better way of putting it, that helps with sustainability. You're doing it. You're doing the right things. Now, in terms of people, how do you make people sustainable? Well, we sort of are finite beings. We are who we are, but we can have sustainability practices. We can encourage everyone from those who work on the shop floor to, the C-suite of a company to adopt practices that minimize waste at a personal level. So if that's reusable containers for food, your lunch, whatever the case, rather than throwaways, fantastic. That's an easy way of doing it. If your company is big enough that you have a staff cafeteria, minimize the number of things that are throwaway. Get dishes and cutlery instead of the throwaway items. And I don't care if we're talking about plastic cutlery or the bamboo, the wooden ones, you're still throwing them away. One may degrade a little faster than the other, but it's still something that is a throwaway. What can you do to reverse that? I'm sure most offices, you've got your coffee mug there. You're likely not using throwaway paper cups. But if you are, consider switching to a ceramic mug that you have to wash. That's an obvious one, but you're cutting down waste. And cutting down waste is a part of the sustainability issue. Now, going back to the shop floor, you definitely don't want to waste your raw materials, your plastic. This is the stuff that I sell. Don't waste it. As much as I love selling more, I don't want to sell more because you're wasting product. That's not how we want to sell. That's not good for anybody. It's not a good look on the industry and not a good look on your company if you aren't efficient with your raw materials. Matter of fact, from a cost perspective, it's highly detrimental. I shouldn't have to spell that out, but I am just making the point. So what can you do to be as efficient as you possibly can with your raw materials? Well, I think by now I sell a purging compound. Use purge to do a couple of things. Minimize the amount of raw material, prime raw material, that you run through the equipment. A lot of people don't want to use purge compound. because they think it's expensive. What is expensive is wasting your prime resin plus taking more time to actually do a color or material changeover on your machine. So if it takes you 1 or 2 hours to do a color or material change, and you could cut that down to 20 minutes by using a commercial purging compound, why wouldn't you do that? Where else can you possibly get that level of increase in uptime? You're buying your capacity utilization. And if you're doing that, you are therefore more efficient and more sustainable. Think of all your inputs into your factory. If it's materials, if it's your employees, hydro, heat, water, the raw materials, everything. How can you best manage that to mitigate waste and get the most out of everything that you bring in? If you constantly strive for efficiency in every input that you have into your plant, you're going to really drive sustainability almost by default. It's something to consider, and I don't care what size plant you are, there are always ways to look for efficiencies and to minimize waste. I'm going to leave that with you. I know it's a topic that our industry just seems to get hit with every day, you know, sustainability and the doubt of plastics. Let's get together as an industry and demonstrate to society once and for all that we actually are responsible as producers, we have sustainability in mind, and work with product distributors, resellers, retail, whatever, to do everything we can to support their sustainability efforts. It's in our best interest as an industry to do this, and also to, well, remind the general public that plastics are an amazing resource. They have value. Don't waste them. Something to consider, and we need to do more work on that front. And hopefully that's something I'm going to be spending more time with in the not too distant future. At any rate, there's your tech tip, your sustainability tip. Thanks so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful Friday and a great weekend as always. And we'll see you back next Friday. Thanks.